at the secondary level, almost all the schools are boarding schools. At the primary level, there's also boarding schools from standard 4 or grade 4, is it grade 5 or 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it is, yeah. They started when they're 10 years old going to boarding schools here, many of them too. So what we have basically said that we are not in favor of, we won't support. I mean, it's obviously up to the parents what they do, whether they continue to do that, but we would not try to find any kind of assistance, financial assistance for boarding schools at the primary level. Because it's just, we don't believe that it's good for these students, these children, to be separated from their families that young. You know, coming from our experience with the native schools in Canada and all the problems with residential schools now. So, but that we would try to support the day schools at the primary level if parents are trying to raise money for something. They have a Harambee or a Makatha to try to raise money, that we will try to also find matching funds through parishes in Canada where we've worked, or through people through the Missionary Association of Mary Immaculate, to try to find funding to help them. Like it's such a, you know, in comparison to their wages and stuff, people in Canada to give something to match what they, I mean, what they sacrificed to come up with. I have every confidence we should be able to get that kind of money from Canada. Like say if they, even to build a classroom fully furnished in that, a stone classroom, made out of stone blocks that they cut out of riverbanks, and that they cut these stones out of the riverbanks and quarry them. But these stone classrooms are about, with a mabati roof, so there's no heating. I think it's just a matter of getting this tin roof on top of rafters on these things, and then a cement floor. Eh? Now this is when you have a really nice classroom. The other ones are just made out of wood and are ground floors. Eh? But I think if they're going to try to, they start off all of these, basically all the schools start off with just schools with ground, dirt floor, and wood siding and a mabati roof. But one a real classroom that's a nice classroom with a cement floor and everything, it costs about 400,000 shillings, or about $10,000. Eh? They can build a classroom for 10,000 Canadian dollars. But I mean, for the people to come up with that 400,000 shillings, that's about what they struggled to put together for their portion of the car. They paid 500,000. Well, it took the whole parish, quite a few Makethas to try to raise that, and they finally paid that off. Eh? But it's a way of them really being involved too. So what we're suggesting, what we have, is basically said that we will match whatever shillings they come up with. We will try to find sponsors to match those shillings, and to be able to help them to progress. So, and at the high school level, what we suggested to the principals was, what about the possibility of a day school at the high school level for Kionyo? Like there's no day schools at all in the countryside, all boarding schools. But I think a day school would work. There would be enough students around that you could have a small high school. And it would be so much cheaper than boarding schools, sending children off to boarding schools where it costs them about, it can be like say 18, 20,000 shillings would be the minimum. Something like that for a year, 3 semesters for a high school student. Well, that is like $500 a year. But for them, that would be 2/3 of it. Like our cook who makes $30,000 a year, so that's 2/3 of his salary for a year for just one student, to send one student to high school. So if they have 1 or 2 students in high school, most families can't afford to send them to the boarding school for high school. And so if you had a day school, hopefully you could operate with, maybe, I don't know, if it was a Catholic sponsored day school where the government paid for the teachers, and you just had to pay for the building and for the textbooks and that kind of thing. And they always, it seems to me, they still, even if it's a day school, they always provide a noon lunch or a meal, because that seems to be the tradition. They don't have anything to bring, I guess, really, in a lunch, like bread, sandwiches, and stuff, eh? So, but yeah, I don't know. See, I don't know what they can do with that. Maybe there is something that you can do where you don't have to feed them at lunch either. But, so we proposed that just because there's so many students that don't go to school because they can't afford it. So it will make it possible maybe for many more students to complete their high school. So we proposed that, and we'll see what happens. If the people get it, think it's a good idea, well, they'll work with it, and then we'll try to, again, get matching funds, eh? For whatever they can raise, we'll bring in money to match that. So we're trying to do some things like that, and it's good. There's a lot of a good feeling about